So let's start by looking at the fallout of Ekiti Primary. So looking at it, both leading parties in Ekiti State, there have been allegations of lack of transparency and the process. Let's start with the most recent one, which is the APC. The other aspirants alleged that the results were pre-written and are at variance with the winner. What's your assessment of the APC primary in the state?
Well, all along I predicted that the candidate of the governor, Biodun Yebanji, on two different editions of Journalist Hangout, I said he will carry the day, and that's exactly what happened. Our politics, the character of our politics is very predictable. Where a governor backs a candidate strongly, that candidate is likely to win. It's always been with us. We saw when Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu backed Tokunbo Afikuyomi against Ganiu Solomon. Both of them were gunning for the Senate. In the end, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu's candidate, Afikuyomi, prevailed despite the fact that Ganiu Solomon was much stronger than him, especially talking about the grassroots. That is what we've seen in Ekiti. The other candidates who decided to pull out said clearly the process was compromised because result sheets had been released overnight and that some of the results had even been filled overnight. They argued that the electoral officers were supporters of the governor's candidate. There were people who had even endorsed the governor's candidate all along. And then, of course, they asked for a meeting with the governor of Jigawa State, who was mandated by the leadership of the party to conduct the primaries. But the Jigawa governor, the last minute, said he was not going to hold any meeting with them. Apparently, he got information that the aggrieved candidates had issued a statement that they were going to release that statement same morning. So the meeting that he had fixed for 9 a.m., he refused to go ahead with it. He told them that he was canceling the meeting, And unfortunately for the gladiators in the APC, the deadline for submission of the candidate of the party was the next day. Both parties didn't do their primaries early enough to allow for people who have complaints to ventilate their complaints and see whether fresh primaries could actually be conducted. What we saw was a disturbing decision to do the primaries so close to the deadline so that whatever the outcome will be fait accompli at the end of the day. So it's unfortunate that at the level of our parties, we are unable to conduct primaries that will be free, fair, and credible, that would please every participant in terms of the conduct. So it's terrible that we are doing this to ourselves, and the parties have not covered themselves in glory, especially the APC. When you look at the PDP, of course, I also expected the candidate of Fayose to prevail, and I predicted that it would prevail because the national leadership of the PDP decided that only automatic and statutory delegates would take part in the election, unlike the APC that decided to go the direct primary route, because that was what those candidates, the majority of the candidates, wanted. The PDP this time decided to go for a delegates election. which is indirect primaries. But the delegates were limited to automatic delegates as well as statutory candidates, delegates. The automatic candidates are the ESCOs of the party in all the 171 wards in Ekiti, as well as the local governments, all the local governments. So, Bisi Kolawole, the candidate of Faoshi, had been chairman of the party, meaning that he had been presiding over the affairs of the party at every level. So those delegates were people familiar to him. He was their leader. So it's not a surprise that he got the majority of the votes. Statutory delegates are not so many. There are people who had held positions in the party, like if you are a deputy, if you are a speaker of the House of Assembly, or even at national level, you are a statutory delegate, so you are permitted to vote in the election. So those ones are not usually many. At least they are not usually as many as the automatic delegates, which is the ESCO of the party in all the local government. A local government like Ado-Ekiti, for example, has no less than 14 ESCO members. So you can imagine, and with Faoshi literally installing the leadership in all of the local governments. Of course, they really played into his hands, and one is not surprised that he won. So the cheering news from the side of the PDP is that the man who came second in the primaries, that's Olusegun Oni, the former governor, has said that they are prepared to work hard to make sure that the candidate of the party prevails in the governorship election.